Welcome to the Judges Briefing for the Australian Individual Debating and Public Speaking Championships. This video will provide a brief general overview of the judging process. Briefing videos will also be provided for each event. Adjudicators are what make this competition possible, so thank you for playing an integral role for these students as they seek to develop their skills. For those of you who are new to the Australian Individual Debating and Public Speaking Championships, the format of the competition is as follows. Students present across 4 areas of public speaking: impromptu speaking, interpretive reading, prepared speaking, where they can choose to either give a persuasive or after-dinner speech, and debate. Speakers will compete twice in each event, once on the first day of competition and again on the second day of the competition. The top speakers in each event are then invited to participate in a final to determine the overall winner. The top 10 speakers, as determined by combined scores across all 4 events, are then announced at the end of the competition. Each event in AIDPSC is judged by a panel of adjudicators. Adjudicators are made up of ordinary people, attending staff members from the various schools competing in the competition, and local volunteers. Adjudicators cannot judge speakers from their own school, and each judge should not see a speaker more than once in each event. However, a judge may see the same speaker across multiple events. The important thing to remember is that, as an adjudicator, you are not an expert. Public speaking is to be judged by an average, reasonable person. Speakers are not trying to appeal to an expert audience, but rather an ordinary one. It's therefore important that you ignore your own opinions or any special knowledge that you may have that an ordinary, reasonable person would not possess. Whatever decision you make should be based solely on the material presented to you. Now, it's also important to note that every state will have different competitions with local rules and preferences. These must be left aside. We judge based solely on the effectiveness of each response, and remember that many approaches will therefore be valid. In AIDPSC, we use a scoring system. Whilst there'll be some variations between events, generally speaking, you're scoring between 70 and 95. Each event has its own criteria and suggested weightings for each criteria. However, as a judge, note that you only need to provide a single overall score. The weightings are provided for guidance only. Judges do not need to impose any penalties, for example, if a speaker goes under time or overtime. These will be noted and will be applied in the tallying room. On screen right now is a simplified version of the scoring ranges that we use in AIDPSC. You'll see that if a student stands up, they get a score of 60. If they make a noise, they get a 65, and we really start scoring at 70, with a score of between 70 and 74 indicating a weak speech, 75 to 79 an adequate but not exceptional speech, 80 to 84 a good speech, 85 to 89 a very good speech, and 90 to 95 an excellent speech. The scores that you give can vary a lot between rooms and between events. However, as a general indication, most scores tend to fall between the 80 to 89 range. Note that scores in the 90 to 95 range should be reserved for exceptional speeches, which you believe deserve a shot at finals. conclusion of each heat, competitors will be asked to leave the room so that the judging panel can confer. This is an opportunity for the judges to compare their scores. Scores for each individual speaker should not exceed a range of 10 points. For example, if the lowest mark given for a speaker was 78, then the highest score should not be above 88. This is to try and ensure that there aren't vastly divergent scores between different judges, and provide an opportunity to clarify any questions that you have with the other members of the judging panel. Note that we are on a strict schedule, so you will need to keep these deliberations brief, but it is a good opportunity to clarify any potential points of misunderstanding, or just to make sure that people are applying the same criteria. However, there can still be, and often will be, differences between the judges' scores. All judges submit their own individual scores. As long as they fall within the 10-point range, differences in opinion are allowed and encouraged. At the very end of each round, there will be an opportunity, time permitting, for students to come up for brief verbal feedback. The judging panel may wish to provide some general feedback to the group if time permits, but this is at the desire of that panel. During the first preliminary round, feedback is ideally aimed at helping speakers to improve for the following day's competition. When listening to speeches, judges should record written feedback that can be provided to students at the end of the competition. This feedback can have a longer-term focus. Feedback should be constructive, encouraging, and reflective of the fact that these are students who have put considerable effort into preparing their speeches. Please therefore keep things positive and encouraging, as we want these students to continue to expand and develop their skills in these areas over the following years. Some of you will be judging in the accompanying SpeakFest development competition. SpeakFest generally follows the same judging criteria and approach as the main AIDPSC competition. There are shorter speaking times in all of the events except for impromptu speaking. These students will also be younger and less experienced, and your scoring range should reflect this. These students will likely look to return to the main competition in future years, and feedback will therefore be particularly important for them. The last thing to remember is that as a judge, you are what make this competition possible. Thank you for giving up your time in support of these young speakers who are making a real difference in the development of their public speaking careers.